first call out to the public. I will read our rule. Member of the public may address the board after receiving recognition from the chairperson and giving his or her name. Public comment shall be limited to a period set aside at each meeting for such purpose, and each speaker shall have the floor for no longer than 5 minutes unless the board grants an extension. Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure and Bylaws 5.13-3, and we also ask you be respectful. Would anyone like to address the board at this time? Morning, Bob.
Good morning, sir.
Looks like the price is right. Come on down.
Thank you, Mike. One was trying to research a little bit, and I got some questions answered yesterday and some others just this morning. It's going back to the where Abe is now running for this position, and in question to try to hold up the chain of command and the laws that stand for it. Did in fact, in question is, as you've said, Mr. Dane, that at the time that North Adams was taken over, it was correct in the attempts to doing so, but when you yourself was there, is not the protocol for the township to appoint an individual and not you. And is that now following orders that would then come from Marnie Cass's office, because you were there at that time by her? I guess one of the, oh goodness gracious, I left the rest of my stuff outside there. But I think in question for the future, you know, one, John Smith, being a part of that other party, it was a good run, and it was, you know, proper. The best that I remember it being, the best I could see that we had was we brought people back to the table. Back then, before these others, it was unbelievable that the people actually didn't even bother to come to any one of you guys' meetings that had to do with commissioners or had to do with the party whatsoever. People weren't following you. Now it's just like it's falling all apart. The people were coming back, and you guys do not draw these individuals from these small townships that ready to do. It seems like you want to take them instead of giving them and showing them and giving them something that say prosperity. And I just don't see it happening in a good way. I just hope that I can get some more notes here and come back, maybe not. But thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time?
Mark?
Arnon?
I had so much I wanted to say this morning, but then my queen told me before I dropped her off at work that, Joe, don't open your mouth too much. So I got to keep it really clean here. First, I want to say to the commissioners, you guys are doing a really good job. I was really disappointed about last week, though, but the 4 commissioners that stood for law and order and following the law that, you know, that's dictated by the state of Michigan, I really appreciate you guys doing that, because you take your oaths real serious. For the ones that don't take their oath serious and only represent a certain fraction, maybe you ought to rethink what you're doing here. I'm gonna disagree with Bob about something. I was lost. And the county brought me back. The system here in this county saved me. I should have been probably going to prison. But the county gave me a chance, and they saved me. They held me accountable and made me take responsibility, and I accepted it. My life has changed. Now I'm back on the right side of things. I'm on my way to a job right now, obviously, or else I wouldn't be dressed like this. I want you guys to continue to support these programs, the veterans programs. I didn't even know he was going to be here this morning. I walked in thinking, and somehow my higher power First had my queen telling me, Joe, keep it PG-13. I walk in and I see my old probation officer and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I really got to keep my mouth shut. And then I see Judge Stiverson, the one that I respect so much in this county that saved my life. I said, okay, my higher power is making me shut my mouth. But it was disgusting on what happened last week in here. It was disgusting when I went to a court hearing because I'm an independent person in this county, and I wanted to see what was going on between the two fractions. And I see a board commissioner sitting with a known insurrectionist, with a known militia leader, which so happened, I guess that militia leader now has taken over their fraction. It's getting dangerous. I hear you say you speak for your constituents, but there's independents and there's Democrats and there's other Republicans in your districts. Speak for them too. About 6 months ago, I came here and said, listen, I know you were new. And it was a learning curve. You had to follow a learning curve, Steve. The other commissioners teaching you the law. Even last week, the commissioner sitting next to you showed you the law. You didn't want to hear it, and yet you still protested the vote. I don't think you're here to represent your constituents. I think you're here to cause issues just like the rest of them. The other shoe's getting ready to fall from the feds, I guarantee it. And there's going to be other ones that are going to have federal charges here soon. I guarantee it. The feds don't operate with just one shoe. They usually have two shoes dropping. It'd be funny to see who gets tied up in all that. You should resign, or people in your districts need to call you. This is the people's work. Do the people's work. All the people you represent. Your cheaters ain't here today. How disrespectful. They come here and say the same nonsense every time. Disrespect the other county commissioners every time. Read some nonsense from Michigan GOP that was overran, that was taken over by a bunch of nuts. You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should resign. Now, my queen, if you're watching this, I am sorry, but I had to say what I had to say. You guys have a good day.
All right, thank you, Joe. Anyone else?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Judge.
First, I'm just here to support Don as he gives his presentation today. But just a couple of things really briefly while I have you. First of all, what a great meeting I had with the Budget Committee. Brent's not here today, and with Doug, I wanted to thank you guys just for your transparency. I know that the county doesn't have money, but one of the things I want you to keep in mind when you listen to Don's presentation today is that we've had to be creative in this county in terms of how we're dealing with criminals on probation here. As most of you are aware, we have a significant lack of space at the jail. They've been operating at 77 people every single day. I get a call that says, who can you release today? Just so you guys are aware, I'm down to 7 people who are actually serving sentence right now, which means I'm trying to make a decision every single day about who the least dangerous person is to let out. And so the public is aware, and I know that this comes back on me. Ultimately, I'm responsible for the people who I'm letting out and supervising. These are individuals who have significant methamphetamine problems. Use of methamphetamine is a 1-year misdemeanor, significant alcohol problems, and of course violence in the home, which is your domestic violence type situations. We attempt to properly supervise them. You are all aware that I have consistently asked for more funding to have probation officers like Don, who's grant funded. We were creative with this, able to find a way to get money that didn't come out of the general fund coffers, although it's arguable. I mean, it's still our money, right? I know that your job is to fund the judiciary effectively so that we can do our purpose. And I think that you guys do that to the best of your ability with the money that we have. I just want you to keep in mind that because of bail reform legislation, and if you don't like that bill, go talk to our legislators, including conservative legislators, Republicans that we put into office. When they voted for that, they took a lot of power and control away from the judiciary in terms of how I set bonds and who I let out. mandatory that certain things be fine-only offenses. So just again, if you can keep in mind what I need to do for supervision, to first and foremost keep the county safe. A good example of how we're able to accomplish that is through tracking probation. And Don speaking to you this morning, I think might give you some insight about what I can do tracking off other types of offenses or other type of offenders. Thanks, gentlemen.
Can I
ask a question, please?
You may.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You may.
sorry, Judge.
A comment back, and I appreciate you being here, Judge, and the Budget Committee did have a terrific conversation, you know,
It did.
we'll see where, you know, what we can and cannot do. We all know that, some of the things.
I know.
But one of the statements that did really almost shock me was when you said that every Thursday when you get a call, that you are putting dangerous people back on the street.
100%.
Can you talk just for a brief minute more about the dangerous people that are going out there?
Right. So district court has some pretty interesting discretion. I don't have to follow sentencing guidelines like the felony court does. So I make a determination at this point based off of the information we can glean about people from my probation officers about who is a potential risk to society. Individuals who aren't a risk can be supervised in the community spending little to no time in jail. And that's what we attempt to do. It's what I have to do because we just don't have the room to put every single person in jail. Very often at sentencing, on the people who do become incarcerated, it's because I've made the decision based off the information that I have that they are a risk to the public, that probation or traditional probation may not serve them appropriately or serve the public, so they get jail time. Then I have to release these people early from their sentences, and I don't want to do that. And for anybody who wonders why I as a judge can't just say absolutely not, they stay in jail the whole time, there are rules in place for jails and correctional facilities that if I don't decide who gets let out, they do. They have to let people out of jail then because they can only operate over capacity for so long. So then I have to go through and make the conscious decision, which is why I hope the voters trusted me when they put me in this position, because I agonize over who I've decided is going to cause the least amount of trauma or stress to the public than when I let them out. We've got a lot more services available now here in Hillsdale County than we did before, and I'm hoping that in terms of increasing supervision, Doug, that I can provide safety to the county by supervising them outside of the jail. But that's where we are with it. We're all in a catch. And again, I don't blame the board for this. This is just where we are in terms of the number of people in there. When bail reform legislation happened, we were told that we would have less people in jail, that we'd be spending less county dollars in jail. That's a bunch of bull, you guys. Because what happened is, I may send less people to jail from the district court, but it changed Judge Lisney and the circuit court sentencing guidelines so that instead of sending people to prison to the MDOC, she has to give them local jail time. So people who originally would have been sent to MDOC and be on the state's dime where they have larger areas to house people, they're all in our county jails now. That's exactly what's happened. Popular opinion or not. So,
Thank you.
any other questions? Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board at this moment? We do have another public comment towards the end of the meeting. All right, moving right